March 19th, 1649. The House of Commons of England passes an act abolishing the House of Lords, declaring it useless and dangerous to the people of England. Hundreds of years later, a similar vote with the same wording will drive James Corden to the U.S.
Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And joining us once again from the Windy City, Chicago, sweet home, Blues Brothers town, Hot Dogville, Byron Graham, everyone.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I literally ate a Maxwell Street Polish earlier.
I also am in Chicago. I had Lou Malnati's deep dish pizza today.
Hey, we're living it up.
You both live there and are tourists there somehow.
We're drinking big glasses of Malort.
You're dyeing the river green.
I did go see that for the first time.
The dyeing of the river.
Honestly, it's too green. Too green.
It's a ghoulish green.
It's really like, it looks like ooze from the Ninja Turtles movie.
I was going to say, like, it got a secret answer wrong on you can't do that on television.
Yeah, it could be that.
Nickelodeon era slime,
I
perhaps?
don't know. And full of trash, the Chicago River was.
Well, that's normal. That's not
a bit of a letdown.
That's not a St. Patrick's Day tradition. That's just
that's just all the time.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day. It's just like more Bennigan's receipts, I guess, or I don't know what Irish people do in Chicago. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, they go to Bennigan's. You got it.
Yep, they go to Bennigan's.
That sounds right. Get, of course, some Irish French onion soup.
There are 0 Irish pubs in Chicago. We're supposed to go to Bennigan's.
Yeah, forgot to put them in.
Forgot to put them in. Listeners, if you're new to the show, each week we take a topic from history, and not each week, it's bi-weekly, and we fucked up the last couple of times, so we haven't been around for a while. Whatever. Each episode we take a topic from history. One person presents the official Englishman sanctioned version of events, and another person presents the Irish fanciful, a little bit twisted version of events. And the winner gets to become the truth going forward of this beautiful baby blue struggling to make it marble we call Canada.
Yeah. And I was supposed to do that part. So.
Oh, fuck me. See? I mean, if you want to do a take on that, please.
No, that's fine. I think we got it. But just to be clear, listeners,
give Ryan enough rope to hang himself.
I ain't doing none of the hard shit this week. I'm supposed to do the part that Brian just did, but he went ahead and took care of it. And I think we got it in one. But yeah, we're in the middle of our series on con artists. I believe our most recent episode was about Victor Lustig with, of course, Jordan Dahl, excellent guest, providing the alternate history for one of the most established con artists of all time.
I listened to that. Good con content.
Yeah, it was a good one. It's a good one. What are the results, Brad? Do we have the results of Victor Lustig back?
Yes, the alternate history won out of that one. Which I'm trying to remember the details of it. Again, listeners, apologize. It was about a month ago at this point. And
he was a vampire.
Things have been.
He was a money vampire.
That's right.
Yes, that's right.
He ate money to sustain himself. He needed. Abraham Lincoln was involved in his schemes.
Mm-hmm.
He was buried in a crate of pennies.
Yes, there we go.
Right.
Thank you. And thank you again to Jordan Dahl for that. And of course, all the listeners out there in listener land casting your votes and rocking the boats. I don't know what the... Sure, let's keep going. But yeah, as Zach said, we're continuing our series on con artists.
Our most lighthearted series of all time, I would venture to say.
Definitely.
I didn't do the research this time, so maybe this guy's like a genocidal con artist.
No, this is one of the least murdery subjects I've had.
Yeah,
great.
You've done
the last one was a World War one spy, and then Vlad the Impaler. So 0 impalings.
You also did like a family being murdered for like a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
I can't remember. No, the Bloody Benders.
The Bloody Benders.
Oh,
that's right.
They're a fun one.
All
There's
three of
some
us,
fun.
apparently.
Yeah.
I was just reading about like the Hinter Kaifek murders last night because why not? I have a whole child to take care of, but why not read about unsolved German murders? But yeah, we'll be discussing, and I apologize in advance for the amount of times Byron and I will both be fucking up the pronunciation.
Lots of mispronunciations coming in hot.
If you're a longtime fan, you should be used to the mispronunciations.
Yeah.
Yes. I this time will be offending people from a different part of the world than usual. Usually it's Russia, and so
and just when we got our excuse to make Russians feel bad.
I think last time I made a pretty glib joke about Russia invading Ukraine, and now I'm eating my words.
To be fair, they've been kind of invading Ukraine for like 7 or 8 years, and now they're just really invading Ukraine.
I did see Putin's speech where he was like, blame Byron Graham.
The Byron Graham. I listened to the revisionists. I hope you guys get a bump from that.
Truly, like the situation between Russia and Ukraine like went from about 7 years of it's complicated to full on invasion on their Facebook page.
I didn't realize
invasion was
I didn't realize that was
an option.
what would that imply? Well, like what sort of like
from it's complicated to full on ground war.
Yeah.
I remember when my ex and I went full on ground war. It wasn't long before we
but the sex was hot.
Yeah.
Listen.
I'm sure there's some perv out there cranking out Putin on Zelensky.
Oh my God. An archive of our own. There's got to be a Putinist ex-Zelensky, ex-reader.
And look, listeners, obviously,
Ex-NATO.
all joking aside, all of our thoughts and sympathies are with the people of Ukraine going through
Yes,
this.
we're very
And
pro-Ukraine, yes.
but also like the amount of not just like legitimate recognition Zelensky gets on Twitter for the good things he does, but the horny tweets I've seen specifically about him have been fucking wild. It's so weird that like we've just decided since the pandemic hit that our response to just someone being like not just competent but like exceeding expectations is that we're going to be just like upfront publicly horny for them. It's absolutely wild. So that's
there was Cuomo, there was Fauci.
Yep.
This guy might deserve it the most, like he's actually a handsome guy and he's being pretty brave. But this guy's going to get milkshake ducked. I'm sure of it.
No, I will say this about Zelensky: the most incontroversial take. Every time I see his name spelled correctly, I still think it's a typo for a minute.
It's like K-I-Y. That doesn't happen in nature.
That double Y at the end is like, my friend, why is there two? This is the platypus of spelling names.
Shit. Well, this episode we're discussing Natwarlal, which is the pronunciation I've been going with in my brain. Mm-hmm. Byron, you're doing the actual history.
Yeah.
And
I've been working with Natwarlal.
That also works.
I don't know. I watched a couple of YouTube videos to try and help me out, and the results were inconclusive. Because the guy who made the video was South African, and that is
that's not the right part of the world.
Very weird and tricky accent where it's like Australian but evil. Afrikaans accent.
Honey, I have some bad news about Australia.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like-
I get it. No.
It's like having a
I mean-
Korean person then asking like a Chilean person how to pronounce it. It's like
Yeah,
neither of
it's-
them are American or English, but they're still both not right.
No, this guy made the video I watched, so I'm gonna go with his
Okay.
pronunciation. Hopefully, he's not some sort of apartheid monster. I didn't think of that.
It was just
When
Vladimir
you be like a
Putin.
white South African of a certain age, you're like, how involved were you? Well, you were alive in the fucking 90s. What's up? Like,
What were your
Hey,
parents doing?
Charlize Theron, you have some questions to answer, I think.
yes, explain it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think she got out of there by the time, but yeah, you never know. Elon Musk.
Yeah, well,
Well, he has a lot more
I
questions.
mean, he has so much
Yeah.
explaining to do.
but
Anyway,
Char
Natwarlal.
lies. I spelled those differently. They just came out. Fucking stupid as hell.
I just meant the accent sounded Australian but evil. But
Yeah. Oh, okay.
yeah. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. Natwarlal, born Mithilesh Kumar Srivastava in 1912 in the village of Bangra, which is located in the Bihar province near the India's border with Nepal. He's known as the King of Cons. I went from the Ace of Spies to the King of Cons.
And of course, the King of Queens.
Yes. King of Queens, one of his greatest cons. He perpetrated that on the American viewing public for 13 seasons.
Did it
Kevin
last
James
that
didn't exist
long?
the whole time.
Oh, probably.
Kevin James, not real. So the crimes of Natwarlal were so grandiose, so spectacular that the name Natwarlal has become a sort of shorthand for con men. Like Kleenex is to tissue, Natwarlal is to con men.
Sure.
Or like if you pull a swindle, you're like, you just did it. Sick Natwarlal, bro.
When you pull a swindle.
He boozled a lot of BAM and flimmed a lot of flam. I wrote that. And I had to say it. So, as with a lot of confidence men, there's a murky historical record here. We don't know much about his childhood. We do know that his father was a railway station master in Bangra, and that's how he got a lot of his insider knowledge of the railway industry, which he would go on to rob a lot. But we don't know what made him choose a life of crime. I'm sorry. I think that's it with the puns. That's the last one, I think.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
that's what
we can't guarantee that, listeners.
We can't
he
guarantee
chicked a
that.
lot of
That's-
cannery. Let's
Yeah, he chinned a lot of cannery. So his first crime, his first act of financial malfeasance occurred early on in his hometown. His neighbor asked him to deposit a couple of banknotes into the local bank for him.
this is a gimme.
And
Yeah.
yeah, lazy. And then he realized that the neighbor's name, by the way, is Sahai. Mithilesh realized he could easily forge his neighbor Sahai's signature because at the time, the way your hand squiggles went was legally binding.
Yep.
And in many ways it still is.
Yeah, I mean, now we got pins and we got fingerprints. We got
Sure, we got
retinal scans,
crypto wallets.
crypto
Yeah,
wallets. We got NFTs. We got apes smoking doobies. All a lot more legit than your hand squiggles.
Now you have to enter a number, and then whoever enters the number owns it forever.
But with his forgeries, he was able to embezzle thousands and thousands of rupees before Sahai got wise. And Mithilesh absconded to Calcutta before his neighbor realized all his accounts were overdrawn. That was his first crime, the first evasion of crime. Because one of the other things, aside from his big his big hits of selling the Taj Mahal 3 times. He escaped from jail 9 times.
Nice.
He was sentenced to collectively 113 years for his crimes over his life, and he intermittently only ever served 20 of those years. He lived most of his life on the lam.
Which is not an insignificant number of years.
He did some time. He did do some time, but like he didn't do 20 consecutive years. It'd be like 5 here, 4 there, 1
For
here, and punctuated by lots of daring escapes. One time he had a visitor smuggle in a policeman's uniform. He put it on and then bribed one of the other police officers to let him out, walked out the front gate of the jail, and then the officer he bribed opened up a suitcase full of newspaper clippings. So the old classic switcheroo. There was no money in that run.
Oh, I thought that was just like, was it like confetti to celebrate at the end?
No. I gave him a bribe
instead of the money.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I didn't set that up well enough.
The classic. You put a bill on the top and the bottom of some cutout newspaper, and it's like,
I don't even know if he bothered with that. It was just a suitcase full of paper clippings.
Yeah, it was.
You take a bribe, you don't, you're at work. You may not
classic.
Be able to look
The Big Lebowski switcheroo.
Yeah, the dirty undies.
Yeah.
It's similar in spirit.
God, could you imagine opening a briefcase you think is full of bribe money and instead it's like a bunch of like cut out Cathys just staring back?
I'd say
hack is what I would say.
I mean, yeah. Exactly.
So he robs his neighbor, he moves to Calcutta. And at the time he's still going by Mithilesh. So he gets a bachelor's degree, tries to start a business in the cloth industry, tries to work as a stockbroker, not having much success, so he returns to crime. Before his first arrest, his schemes are not very sophisticated. One of them's honestly, very creepy. They were perpetrated against sex workers also, possibly his least deserving target. Like European tourists, bankers, industrialists. Go ahead, rob them blind. Not an honest woman trying to get out there and make a buck. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Especially he would hire a prostitute, put some sort of knockout drug in their drink.
Oh no!
And then rob them of their jewelry and cash while they were unconscious. This is also one of his only crimes that's like. That's an assault, brother. That's because his other crimes are all nonviolent. Like it's all just like, I tricked you into giving me money.
Yeah, that's the vibe we've been going.
But yeah, it's stealing from an unconscious sex worker. Not cool, bro.
It's like genuinely, someone who was 14 when GTA 3 came out and was like, hey, you know what's hilarious? Stealing from sex workers hasn't aged as well, has it?
Has not aged as well. I think you still can in 5. I wonder if they'll if GTA 6 ever comes out, if they'll revise it. It almost seems like they'd have to, right? Anyway.
Well, they make $900 million a year off of GTA Online still, so they might just be like, "Fuck it, why make another one?"
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's unrelated.
He was first arrested in 1937 for stealing 9 tons of iron. They don't have a lot of information about that, so I don't know how he heard about this iron. That seems
what his plans were for the iron.
Yeah. That's a really 9 tons. That's
a lot of iron.
Cumbersome.
He was briefly a Spider-Man villain.
You can't just pickpocket that.
Yeah. He became the Sandman for about a week.
I was going to go with Magneto, but yeah, Magneto was never a Spider-Man villain. Anyway, he decides to level up his crime game after he gets caught, he gets arrested, serves a short sentence, and decides to get more sophisticated with his methods. And he first, he starts out by stringing together a series of smaller railroad cargo heists. Mm-hmm. So using his knowledge that he gained from his father, his business degree, and his general facility with forgery, he's able to falsify release orders and promissory notes for various goods and services on the railway. Why? I don't know. I got way too detailed about this stuff. And then he would be able to, so he would falsify the documents. He would say like, hey, I'm going to pay you for this. And then he would never pay.
Yeah.
He would take off with the goods before anybody got wind of what he was up to. And he repeated these tactics dozens of times. And he mostly didn't get caught. And this was through to the 1940s. And in the 1940s, World War II, obviously, India suffered shortages on a number of important goods, namely textiles. And so in this time of national need, Natwarlal, who was still going by that name at the time, saw opportunity. So he hatched his new scheme with a crime partner named Natwarlal. The plot thickens. And again, using his railway and forgery skills, he swindled textile merchants out of their, basically the same version of the con that he was running before, but on a larger scale. Mm-hmm. And he would, so he defrauded merchants and manufacturers of thousands and thousands of rupees, selling them cotton that essentially didn't exist. But there was, he would don various disguises, pretend to be different people, have notes from bank officials, railroad officials.
I don't know why. I thought you were going to say his mom for a second.
His mom.
That's how he got out of class. Doctor, that's way back in the
day.
His
orthodontist. So the police did eventually, these crimes were reported and investigated. The police did eventually apprehend Natwarlal, but they confused him with his partner Natwarlal, who was wanted for a less severe charge. And thereafter, he went by the name Natwarlal. It was his nom de crime.
Just on the theory that, he gets into less shit than I do, so maybe.
So, Natwarlal's a good guy. I think it'd be a good influence for me to take this fake name. No, he was he was wanted for a less serious crime. So he was like, yeah, totally. I'm Natwarlal. And based on the rules of hand scribbles,
It's very much like a hand scribble.
I'm more of a scamp than a criminal.
Yeah. Most of this, like I said, stealing from bankers and merchants I don't lose sleep over that. Yeah. This is all harmless stuff. He was celebrated as sort of a Robin Hood figure particularly in his region, in his hometown of Bhangra. He would,
which of course, listeners, a Robin Hood figure is a sexy fox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a disconcertingly hot fox.
Oh, not me, baby. Very concerted.
He assumed a lavish lifestyle. His cons start getting more elaborate. He impersonates and forges the signature of Indian President Rajendra Prasad.
That's a jump.
There's a big jump. Yeah, it starts to get kind of like there's a lot of detail about his, almost granular detail about his earlier crimes. And they're like, oh, then he totally sold the Taj Mahal 3 times. But they don't say whom or how it happened. They just say that a wealthy European tourist was seeing the Taj Mahal and he was like, hey man, you want to fucking buy that? You can. And I get why it didn't get reported, because how dumb do you look?
Of course.
If you thought, this guy convinced me I could buy it.
Yeah, you'd look like a fool. And part of me misses the time in human history when and this happened in America too, for sure. Where you could just be like, I'll bet I could forge the president's signature, and you could just do it. It could just happen. Nowadays, it's you can't really do that. Like you'd get called out immediately. But there was a time,
Somebody would
not
catch
even
it.
that long ago, pretty recently in human history, where if you were like, I'll bet I could forge the president's signature, you're probably right.
You get
My parents were alive. Yeah, when he did that, when he forged the president's signature and got someone to give him money, he was alive already. My parents were alive. People believe this.
Also,
Yeah.
like, you'd get called out. Which, like, no, you'd get arrested. Someone would just be like, hey, do better. Start
Hey, you
listening.
rascal.
Like I could probably walk up in the 1920s to the right person at a military base and be like, Calvin Coolidge sent me, and they'd believe it. I feel like I can't do that anymore.
Well, yeah, because Calvin Coolidge has been dead for a good long, about 100 years.
Yeah, though to be fair, Americans
No,
have
he's
a poor
saying in the
grasp of
20s he
history.
could have.
I suppose you could do like a time
was he-
machine thing.
But
And
I'll
then you
bet there's a lot of people who are station guards at military bases who, if I said Calvin Coolidge sent me, they would be like, I guess that's a person who exists and is currently in power.
They're like, oh, I've heard of that guy.
Yeah.
And then you could walk into a sex dungeon and be like, Warren Harding sent me. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, come on in. One of our horniest
Warren
presidents.
Harding never left. His portrait's on the wall like The Shining. In addition to selling the Taj Mahal, which again I could not. I really wanted. That's the lead here, right?
Mhm.
That's what you want. The juicy deets. Didn't have that. He did also manage to sell the Red Fort of Delhi and the Indian Parliament, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, which is the Indian Parliament building, which he sold MPs included to an unwitting European tourist. Like I said, he escaped from prison 9 times. He's celebrated as a Robin Hood figure in Bhangra, where he would make like annual visits and give out rupees to poor families. Which also, this just makes me think of Legend of Zelda every time I say rupee. His last escape was in 1996.
Pretty recent.
Which is speculated it could be the year of his death. He was 84 years old, and he was bound to a wheelchair at the time, and he was in a prison transport to a medical facility. Because in jail, he was acting more infirm than he actually was. His final con.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he just wheeled his ass to freedom. He escaped at age 84. And his brother said that he died in 1996 and like signed a death certificate and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then reports have surfaced that he actually died in 2009 at the age of 97. And yeah, free for his golden years. So there's even in his death, he's still doing cons. They made a movie based on a Bollywood film based on his life called Mr. Natwarlal, and that came out in 1979. So it's very possible that this dude watched a movie about himself.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so wild.
Yeah. And Mr. Natwarlal I didn't have time to watch it, much to my chagrin, available on YouTube. So
wow.
Hell yeah.
It's 2.5 hours long. So
Ooh, it's an epic.
time commitment.
And it didn't even cover his whole life.
It's Bollywood, so I assume 90 minutes of that is songs.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, baby.
But yeah, Natwarlal, what a life. Huh?
The music man of India.
The king of cons. That's the apparently real version of the story. The frustratingly detailed light version of the story. If any of your listeners know how the Taj Mahal selling con went down, tell Brian and Zach, and they'll tell me because I want to know.
Yeah, it's so like I was trying to track it down because I was like, oh, this could be great great fodder. And it's just like, yeah, he sold the Taj Mahal. And it's just like,
there's very little record about him because it was all like listicles on the top 5 cons of all time.
Yeah.
Or India Times, like, is Natwarlal really dead? We'll never tell. It was never like.
Of course, written by Tom Riddle or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. People don't know this. India Times run entirely by leprechauns. I don't know how they got. Run by Brittany Murphy from that one movie where She'll Never Tell. Deep cut.
Wait, what the fuck?
I don't know. This is should be cut from the podcast. I recently watched that sad documentary about Brittany Murphy, and it reminded me of this movie that came out where in the trailer she's like, "I'll never tell." And even though I never saw the film, I'd been haunted by that clip. And then they used that clip in the documentary, like, who killed Brittany Murphy? It was like out of context as a like Dateline NBC style
stinger,
like as a way to like build chilling atmosphere for this document. It was not tasteful at all. I don't think I did a good job explaining that. Don't watch the documentary. It's trash. It's on HBO Max, but
I was unaware there was a new Brittany Murphy documentary, to be honest.
There is, yeah. And then people don't really know how she died, and then her boyfriend died of the same thing. Seems mysterious. Maybe you guys can. Maybe when in 2039, you can do the Brittany Murphy episode.
When enough time has passed.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. What? How long ago does something?
I think by this reckoning, did Natwarlal die more recently than Brittany Murphy? Natwarlal.
He did.
Yeah,
he did. But he was born in 1912. Definitely counts, but died in 2009.
Oh,
I was basically the same person already in 2009.
He might have seen Heath Ledger as the Joker in cinemas.
That might have been the last movies. We don't know. He probably watched Obama get inaugurated.
He watched The Dark Knight and was like, these schemes are outlandish. They wouldn't work in real life.
It's like, this is no selling the Taj Mahal, let me tell you. In my day, all you needed was a smile and the right hand squiggles, and you were in like Flint, baby.
And they were like, "Sir, please stop talking in the theater." The Brittany Murphy movie is "Don't Say a Word," I believe.
Yes,
with Michael
that's
Douglas.
It uses clips from her career to like punctuate the mystery of the documentary, and it's gross.
Yeah,
it's a weird technique that I don't like.
Just her saying "rolling with the homies" from Clueless.
No, but there are clips from Clueless where she's like, "I'm just a normal girl," and then they'll be like, "Brittany Murphy, it's just a normal girl."
Oh, so very, very VH1 style.
It's really
behind the music.
Yeah,
but like I was watching the Worst Roommate Ever thing, and I realized these true crime, like the production value is just slightly better. They're not. It's still the same trash that it's been since like the late 80s.
Yeah,
this is still like 20. I don't know.
I haven't watched Worst Roommate Ever, but we saw it come up on Netflix just because we've been binging happy endings. And it's very weird for me for a show about like some murderers to have a title like Worst Roommate Ever.
What is Worst Roommate Ever? I for a second I was like, maybe you're talking about Worst Person in the World, the foreign film, but I don't know.
That is very, very good.
Yeah.
It is very good.
I like that too. No, the Worst Roommate Ever it is an oddly sitcom-y name for like, she murdered 9 people and buried them in the garden.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's originally it was called Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
That is at least murdery roommate was already taken.
It's a moderately bad roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about worst, but moderately bad.
But Byron, thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. I wish that I'd had a more coherent narrative to put together, but it was very scattered.
I think to be fully transparent, I've heard about this guy a little bit on like podcasts about con artists and stuff. And I was aware like the timeline is not as clear as it is with like someone like Victor Lustig, but I also wanted to include the fact that, sometimes this can be a little bit of a Western centric show. And I think it's important to include the fact that there are very skilled, and very important people from, other cultures, even if the record keeping can be a little bit more difficult. And that was less on Byron and more on the fact that like we wanted to include the story and the records are not as clear overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure if I'd like spoke Hindi and was willing to like go,
For sure.
go to, I don't, there was a real dearth of information about it, but it's too bad because it's a very fascinating guy. And I'm sure the movie embellishes a lot because it's a movie, but I'd be curious to see how some of this stuff
he seems to be like a folk hero in India still to this day.
Yeah, there's a statue of him in Bhangra.
Yeah.
But I just heard I couldn't find an image of the statue. I wanted to see it. Couldn't find it.
I think it's just made out of catalytic converters that have been taken out of people's cars. Just for
that's what the 9 tons of iron were for.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I like nothing personal. But if you think Natwarlal died in 1996 or even 2009, you are a fool and a dollard. I combined those words. Adult, even, again, no offense. And he, of course, being the king of cons, faked his death he built a paper mache man and just filled it full of just whatever he get his hands on. So mostly like pork. And then faked his death by pushing it into a wood chipper. So he probably didn't even need the paper mache at that point, actually.
You could just put the meat straight in the chipper.
And
results the thing.
Yeah, I mean, like you just position the wood chipper right and say, "Hey, I'm Natwarlal," and then you
welcome
just
to Jackass.
You duck down, and then a second later, you have the pork shoot out the other side. No one any the wiser.
I got it. The first few times I tried to Google him, did you mean narwhal?
Yep.
Damn your ethnocentricity, Google.
And I mean, he faked his death because, like, I mean, why does anyone fake their death? They want to hit the road. They want to pretend
to be dead, usually.
Yeah, that's
pretend to be dead.
But they want to still be alive, actually.
Yes.
Like, if I were to fake my death, my main motivation would be like, I want people to think I'm dead, but I want to still be alive.
I want the Best Buy Geek Squad to stop calling me. And I don't know how else to do it. So he hit the road. He felt he had like lost the spirit of being a con artist. Like it had lost its soul for him, and he kind of needed to reconnect with it. And so out on the road, he met sort of a very precocious, but very buttoned up young teenager named Rahul Mandal. And he knew he was very. Rahul had like the intellectual side, like he liked planning cons and writing things in his little diary that he kept, but he just needed to come out of his shell to really, become the con artist that Natwarlal saw in him. So they sort of got together and started hanging out, and Natwarlal sort of took him under his wing, and they pulled some classic heights that sort of both served to get Rahul sort of open up a little bit, get some experience, and to sort of reconnect what Natwarlal to like what he really loved about conning. So like they hustled cricket matches. They did 3-card Monty. Trying to think of like classic like Indian cons. They inspired Wes Anderson, is the thing. That was perhaps the greatest con they ever pulled.
They told Wes Anderson that he had business making a film about this culture.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I don't know
the classic Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know how much of its budget Darjeeling Limited made back. I'm sure it made some profit for them at least, but it was less than expected. And so they formed this kind of almost like innocent partnership. Now they did steal again, just tons and tons of iron. But that was more just out of habit at that point. And of course,
he's a hemophiliac. What's he supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. Of course, the royal disease. Ladies, if you can, or gentlemen, anyone, if you can get yourself a partner who is both hemophiliac and has gout, you have got just royalty on your hands right there. But anyway, Natwarlal was getting tired. He was at this point in his late 90s. And he didn't really have the heart to tell Rahul that he felt like his time was sort of coming up. And Rahul at the same time wanted to show his appreciation for Natwarlal by giving him a perfect night. So he stole a bunch of food, a feast fit for a king. And as they ate and talked and joked, Natwarlal just suddenly mentioned that he couldn't imagine a more perfect last night. And it turns out that he had swallowed like a bunch of pills, or that's what he told Rahul. Spoiler alert. And Rahul's crushed, but ends up taking the loss well. Like the last we see Rahul, he's driving Natwarlal's car off a cliff during his funeral. But also, who's that standing on the hill during Natwarlal's funeral? An old man with a glint in his eye? That's right. Oh, I don't know why I keep making sounds like that. We next see Natwarlal.
He Huckleberry Finned his own funeral.
Yep, he did.
Tom Sawyer. No, that's Tom Sawyer.
I think that's both of them.
They didn't both do it.
No, Tom Sawyer. They both watch it, but Tom Sawyer's the one that they think is dead.
Oh, okay.
Really? I thought they were both dead.
Maybe. I remember like Tom Sawyer's Aunt Sally is like kind of a bitch, but then she's really sad that he's dead, and you're like,
I think you're probably right. Huckleberry Finn had more serious adventures, and Tom Sawyer.
He was too busy saying the N-word to go. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I Googled who watched their own funeral, and surprisingly, not helpful. So we next see Natwarlal flying first class on a plane to Chicago, because it turns out his relationship with Rahul had reconnected him with sort of the spark that had been missing, and he just wanted another change of scenery. And there he takes a couple young ne'er-do-wells under his wing, and he shows them how to be better thieves and con artists. And they call themselves the Wet Bandits, after their favorite type of dream. And as they were trying to break into a house in a posh area to try to, like, it was their last training session.
Somewhere around Evanston, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Natwarlal was electrocuted to death by a juvenile offender named Kenneth McAllister. And the Wet Bandits swore revenge, and Kenneth McAllister still at large and inspired the character of Kevin McAllister for legal purposes. Not they couldn't use his real name, basically. And
I wonder if Home Alone is the most referenced movie in our alternate histories.
It absolutely has to be.
Did that start out as a bit of Harold and Maude?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Which
it was like Harold and Maude, Fargo,
Yep.
Home Alone. What did I miss?
I got to
Coen Brothers reference, and then we've got a trifecta because we did Big Lebowski earlier.
Of course, and then everyone said burn after reading.
I was going to say your story really had that Barton Fink feeling.
Yeah.
And of course, a serious man.
Barton Fink feeling in the way that you like started out wanting to do real art and then were broken down. By the studio system.
You meet your idol, and he turns out to be a drunken hack whose wife's doing his work for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now I just want to watch Miller's Crossing, which is kind of
What's the rumpus? Man, those are good. Did you know that they wrote Barton? They were trying to write Miller's Crossing, and they got writer's block, so they wrote Barton Fink just to like
really. I did not
clear the cobwebs.
Yeah.
Like what a great that might be the greatest distraction in cinema history. I fucking love Barton Fink.
I think Barton Fink might be their best film potentially.
It's up there it's definitely top 5 for me.
Yeah.
Did that? I'm trying to remember. When did Raising Arizona come out? Was it before Miller's?
88 maybe.
It was before. It's Blood Simple 84. And then I think Raising Arizona is like 87 or 88.
Yeah.
And then Miller's Crossing?
Miller's Crossing is like 92.
I think
Miller's Crossing is like
so maybe
90 or 92.
93.
Yeah.
Okay. But like, what a fucking stretch of films also.
Yeah.
Jesus.
They're good at making movies. The Tragedy of Macbeth, also very good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So good. Like the first thing I use my Apple Plus subscription for.
I got Apple Plus specifically for Tragedy of Macbeth.
We went to watch it on the big screen, and it was worth it. It's a very pretty movie.
Yeah. But yeah, that is the alternate history of Natwarlal. And yes, Zach, I believe you're right. Home Alone has to be the most frequently referenced movie. I can't think of another that really repeats, because mostly I think we try not to repeat them too much, other than fucking Home
comes
Alone.
Up all the time.
It's very useful. Surprisingly, there's a lot of historical applications for Home Alone.
Yeah,
I know I brought up Brigadoon twice, which is funny because I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's a Brigadoon.
Story that, yeah, that's a Brigadoon.
I've never seen Brigadoon, but I'm familiar with the concept as a mythical,
like a fictional town that only appears every couple of years. That's generally the gist of what I bring it up, but I should probably see that thing.
I mean, it's
right after Mr. Natwarlal. That's on my queue.
I've actually never seen Harold and Maude. Also, to full disclosure, I feel like I'm at this point I'm far too old to watch it. Like that.
It is. I think it's better when they're Harold's
You're older than Harold, but you're younger than Maude.
Yeah, so maybe I'll watch it like when I'm starting to hit my like 70s or 80s.
If you want to sing out, sing out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be free, be free.
If you want to be you. There's a million ways to be.
There's a Cat Stevens song, and then Cat Stevens does a very Simon and Garfunkel and The Graduate type soundtrack for the whole movie.
I knew that much. I'm a Cat Stevens fan. Because of course, fucking look at me.
It's a good movie. I think it's still worth seeing at an older age.
Okay.
It's a young, depressed American boy, and then an older woman who is also implied to like have a zest for life in part because she saw the horrors of Nazi Germany and is like, I don't take shit for granted anymore. And I think there's relevance still in the movie.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, totally. I had something to add to that and totally lost it. So, anyway, listeners, before we move on to judgment, I just want to say, hey, send us your letters, your questions, your comments, your slash fiction, your trash fiction, your crash fiction, which is when you totally just recite the plot of the movie Crash. You could do that at revisionistpodcast.com. Just click on the contact form, or through our Instagram or Twitter. Just search Revisionist Podcast, Revision Pod on Twitter, and yeah, reach out. And you can also support the podcast on Patreon, which is always incredibly appreciated. There's a lot more worthy causes you can give your money to. Like obviously, because I mean, I really wish we were plugging the Patreon at a time when the world was not.
We haven't done
fire.
that for 4 years. This podcast has been going on for a long time, and it's been at least 3 years when we have like been in a position to be like, hey, give to our Patreon.
But also,
actually, it's been longer than that. Like we did this in the Obama era, and that was about the last time that we were like morally able to be like, hey, give to our Patreon.
Support the arts. Yeah.
It's just gotten worse.
Yeah. Byron, did you have anything you wanted to plug?
I don't have a ton. If you want to see me at Chicagoland open mics, I am just now dipping my toes back in after a long hiatus away.
Because of the aforementioned years of shit going on.
All sorts of bad stuff.
Goddamn, I should
like I moved right in the middle where it's like I was, after like I was only doing comedy because I hosted open mics and I needed that money. So after I lost those weekly gigs, I was like, I'm going to take a long break. And then it was Delta, and then it was Omicron.
I mean, it's been so insane. I should really track down some of those open mics and join you. It's been a while since I've done some. So yeah.
I don't know. Did you ever meet Anthony Syracuse?
I don't think I did.
He's a Denver comic who's out here now. He hosts one. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go to his mic and pester him to get up early. Like, how do you like it? How the tables have turned.
He's a good lad.
No, he's a nice kid. It's been a hell of a year.
And or beginning of a decade.
Yeah.
That's
the thing. Also, the last several years, when we've asked people what they want to plug, it's been like, things are bad. That's all.
Listen to the Jordan episode, and he's got like, every podcast I'm on. Yeah. Every spare minute of my day is talking into a microphone.
Oh man.
I admire the grind, but yeah, I've it's like, let's see, I've got a screenplay I'll probably never finish. A journal that if anybody found, they'd think I was a madman.
It's just the names of all the victims of Jack the Ripper over and over again.
Hopefully some jokes that are, because like I don't know how to write one now.
Yeah.
Because like there's too much time for doubt to creep in between thinking of it and writing it.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, I would always just write it at the mic and then try it. And then I got a laugh. So I'm like, I'm worthy and deserving of love. So I'll keep this joke. Now there's too much time. There's too much time to be like, nah, that's not funny anymore. Or like, we live in a reality where this no longer applies.
See, I did the thing where for years and years doing stand up, my daily practice was like writing 5 jokes a day. And like, I kept that up for a lot of the pandemic until I'm like, well, I haven't been going out and using any of these. I've just been like edging myself for like a year of being like, oh, this is going to be so fucking funny when I get to tell it. And I'm just like, I can't fucking deal with confronting that huge backlog.
5 a day. That's really impressive.
I mean, I stopped doing that.
But I mean, to have ever done that is impressive. Like, even when I was hitting like several mics a night, every night, I'd be doing the same shit over and over. It wasn't like,
but Zach, you co-host the Movie Trap podcast.
I do. It's a podcast about fucking movies. What do you know?
It's not about fucking movies. It's not three dudes with their dicks stuck in the Blu-ray.
And I would prefer a VHS.
Three guys with their dicks stuck in a reel-to-reel projector.
Yeah, if I'm going to fuck a movie, it's going to be VHS. Let's be real.
Okay, Scorsese.
The most fuckable format.
Yeah. It turns. It's got a little
disc.
It's great.
The V stands for va-va-vu.
No, it's a movie podcast. We each challenge each other to a topic. Each of us picks a movie in that topic. And at the end, we pick the best that each of us provided. So, for example, we might have one that's like best representation of your city. And one of our cities is LA. One of them is Chicago for me. And one of them is New York. And we pick our representative movies for our city. And then at the end, we choose who gave the best movie, or it could be about documentaries. It could be about sports movies, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's basically a slightly gamified movie podcast. So there you go.
You did Hoop Dreams, all three: Chicago movie, sports movie, documentary.
Yeah.
What'd you pick as your
I would
Chicago
love that.
movie?
Actually, it's hilarious, the idea of presenting the same movie over and over again for different categories. That had never occurred to me that I could just constantly be like presenting the same movie over and over again.
I mean, I haven't seen it in years and years, but I remember Hoop Dreams being pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a 3 times. I feel like you see it once 10 years ago and that was it. And that's fine. But weeks and weeks over and over.
I've never seen it, but I saw the Mr. Show parody.
What did you pick as your Chicago movie?
I actually went with a movie I'd never seen before that was filming when I first moved here, just up the street from where I worked at the time, which was Widows, the Steve McQueen movie.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good Chicago movie. I like that movie.
It is good.
I liked it more the second time I watched it too.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Listeners, as for me, again, give money to people who need it. There's just a lot. There's too many to mention right now. Give blood also. I'll say that. How about that? Open your veins, give some blood. And
open your veins, open your wallets.
Just open everything up. Just be a goatsy of the heart. Gonna create space so I can cut that out. But that brings us to the judgment phase of the podcast, which falls to Zach this time.
You know, this is an interesting one because, as we discussed in the episode, the actual story is so... Some of the records are very sparse or contradictory or unclear, or even if they are there, like they're not readily available on the internet yet or may never be. So it does leave a lot of natural gaps, is the thing with the story. So it makes sense.
The real version, you mean?
Yeah, the real version. Yeah. There's so many natural gaps that like just aren't covered by what we know about this guy's life. So the filling, the cement filling of the alternate is such a natural choice, I think, because it fills in these places we don't know inside of the real story. And so for that reason, I feel like you almost have to go with the alternate to like fill in the blank spots in this story that may never be fully told, but hopefully we'll get a better picture of one day. And at that point, I reserve my right to change my mind.
Well, Byron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Zach.
Zach, thank you as always.
Of course.
For everyone here at the Revisionists, almost made it the whole first episode back after a month without fucking up the name of the podcast.
Hey.
For everyone here at the Revisionists, there we go. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
Have a good time. Tell you what, Zach, why don't you start with the ones for the 5th, and then we'll just roll into the 19th. That'll just make it easier to edit.
All right. March 5th, 1770. The Boston Massacre. 5 Americans, including Crispus Attucks, are fatally shot by British troops. British loyalists dismissed the massacre, noting that it was deserved because Attucks might have shoplifted a Snickers. These are not going to go on the front anyway. It's fine if I misspeak.
Oh God. I forgot you sent me these, and I forgot how fucking brutal some of them were.
March 5th, 1616, Copernicus's book on the revolution of heavenly spheres is added to the Index of Foreign Books due to his absolutely obscene descriptions of Saturn's dump truck ass. March 5th, 1933, the Nazi Party receives 44% of the Reichstag election vote, which allows the Nazis to later establish a dictatorship. History, out of original ideas, is considering a remake of this event scheduled for 2024. And finally, March 5th, 1953, Joseph Stalin dies in Moscow after suffering a cerebral hemorrhage 4 days earlier. The only 4 days in his life when Stalin shat in his bed instead of on all of Russia.
I remember 2 of mine, just offhand. March 5th, 1770. The Boston Massacre takes place when British troops fire onto a crowd of American protesters. Today, killing 5 people. Today that's called the Boston Tuesday. There we go. I can't remember the year Stalin died offhand.
1953. I have it
53. Thank you. March 5th, 1953. Joseph Stalin dies. And because of the internet, whenever someone mentions the fact that he was a murderous autocrat, someone else also is legally required to mention that he was kinda hot at one point. March 19th, 1284. Wales is incorporated by England, who prize Wales' abundant sources of coal, farmland, and consonants. March 19th, 1918. U.S. Congress establishes time zones to put a stop to the massive disruption caused by a synchronized nationwide 420 blaze-up. March 19th, 1831. The first documented bank heist in U.S. history is carried out in New York City Bank, causing the bank to rethink its open vault policy. One more. March 19th, 1649. England's House of Commons passes a law abolishing the House of Lords, declaring it, quote, useless and dangerous to the people of England. But members of the House of Lords are in the middle of an eyes wide shut sex party, so they don't even really notice.
Okay. March 19th, 1649. The House of Commons of England passes an act abolishing the House of Lords, declaring it useless and dangerous to the people of England. Hundreds of years later, a similar vote with the same wording will drive James Corden to the U.S.
Perfect.
March 19th, 1979. The United States House of Representatives begins broadcasting its day-to-day business via the cable station C-SPAN. Early seasons were relatively mundane, but recent seasons try to juice the ratings with increasingly outlandish casting choices like Marjorie Taylor Greene or event episodes like Attempted Insurrection. March 19th, 1895. Augusta and Louis Lumiere record the first footage using their newly patented cinematograph. March 19th, 1895. Auguste and Louis Lumiere record the first footage using their newly patented cinematograph. Disgruntled fans immediately reject it, calling on studios to release the Edison cut.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.